Welcome back to SJU, where I just learned something quite disturbing to my eyes, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. But before I do that, I'm Roxy Striar, and I am not alone here today. Also with me, somebody who hasn't been on the table with me for a long time, Eric Goldman.
Hello there. Nice to be back here with you.
Is it something I said?
Yeah, there was some things I had to work out myself.
Oh,
it was a journey.
How's that going?
It's going good. There's still a little bit more work to do, but we'll get there.
Also on the glasses side of the table,
right,
Emma Fyffe.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm representing glasses here on SJU today, unlike the other person on this table who has betrayed the glasses solidarity today.
So that's what I learned just now. Dan Murrell is glasses-less because...
I went to the place on your Tumblr, Emma.
Yes.
Universal. We went to horror nights, and I put in contacts when we go to like theme parks because I don't want to worry about my glasses flying off my face on the mummy or whatever. And they're extended wear.
So you just kept them in.
Instead of just taking them out after a day, I kept them in.
Wait, this is a really, really dumb question from somebody who can't see but has refused to wear glasses or contacts her whole life. Oh. Won't they like grow as part of your eye?
Well, you take them out after like a week, but you can.
Yeah, they make contacts you can sleep in now.
That breathe and aspirate and that you can leave in for. You don't have to take them out every day.
You go to sleep and they're still in there.
Yeah. Unless you wear them too long, and
then they're part of your face.
Well, no, like I had one that went in the back once. I had to retrieve it, but yeah, no. As long as you maintain it properly, it's fine.
No, nothing in the back of my eye.
Don't wear them.
Also, I just do want to give a shout out really quickly to our very own Ken Knapsack. Hi, Ken. Back together, and it feels so good. Happy to have him here helping us out. Guys, we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. We are talking Disney Plus because there have been more announcements about how involved you need to be with the MCU in order to watch the Disney Plus shows. Also talking about FX shows that are going to be moving to Hulu and what that means for the future of FX and Hulu. And of course, it is Fan Friday, so that means you guys have asked questions. We have, I was going to say answers, but sometimes we have the answers. Sometimes we just have comments on those questions. Whatever it is, we'll get through it together. Let's start with this Disney Plus stuff, guys, because it was already known that Scarlet Witch will appear in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. You guys know how I feel about Doctor Strange. But that was something we've known for a long time after her WandaVision show. But now Kevin Feige confirmed that Loki Disney Plus series will also tie into Doctor Strange sequel. He said, quote, "I'm not sure we've actually acknowledged that before, but it does." So with all of these tie-ins, it might be challenging for new fans to come aboard. And by might be, sounds pretty close to impossible for new fans to jump on without having to binge many different movies and keep up with the MCU. Eric, are you nervous about them not being able to have a big enough fan base on Disney Plus because of this?
Yeah, it's interesting because, it's like, obviously MCU is so popular, but at the same time, I do think realistically, all the people who love and go to see the movies are not going to watch the shows. Shows might be very successful, mind you. I'm just saying, like, I don't think everyone who watches movies are going to go see them. But Ryan and I were talking about this earlier, and I brought up, I thought Captain Marvel was kind of a good litmus test for this because that was a huge hit movie. It made over $1 billion. However, Avengers Endgame made like almost $3 billion. So it stands that a lot of people who went to see Avengers Endgame had never seen the Captain Marvel movie. I think it's going to be kind of that, where it's like when she shows up in Endgame, you might not know her if you didn't watch that movie, but it's not like you were like lost in the story. And I hope that's the case here too, that Doctor Strange himself will have to learn some stuff that happened in Loki and WandaVision, but maybe it won't be the specifics. But you can kind of just get enough. Because at a certain point, you don't want it to be homework. You don't want it to be like, as much as people love this series, I love this series, you don't want it to be like, you must watch every episode of every TV show or you will be lost. And so I hope they can get that balance. And so far they have, but I think these shows will kind of test that a little more.
What do you think, Emma? Are you surprised by this in any way?
Well, it's interesting because what we're dealing with here is almost the opposite of what happens with Star Wars, which has had television series for a long time now with things like Clone Wars and Rebels, and obviously we're going into The Mandalorian launching next week. With Star Wars, in the TV shows, they tend to assume that you have seen the movies. You don't need to know every single detail, but like when you're watching Star Wars Rebels, you already know who Darth Vader is, that kind of thing. But they don't assume that anybody watching the movies has watched the TV shows for the most part, with Solo being a glaring exception with the appearance of Darth Maul, which was mostly just confusing to people because they haven't watched the shows. So I think that it is an interesting...
I'm also on this side of the table.
Exactly. It's an interesting challenge that you're dealing with. And based on what they're saying here, it almost sounds like it's going to be essential that you have to watch the shows in order to really get what's going on in the movies. And specifically in Doctor Strange, of all things, which I felt when he was introduced into the MCU was a little refreshing because it really was a standalone film. You didn't need to know all that much about what else was happening in the MCU in order to get something out of Doctor Strange. Yeah. So it's very bizarre to me that they're like, we have 2 TV shows that are like directly related to Doctor Strange. Now, that being said, I do agree with you, Eric, that there is very much a strong possibility of, well, we're going to get Easter eggs that reference the series, so you're rewarded for watching the TV shows, but not necessarily alienated by not watching them.
How do you feel, Dan, about this? I know that a lot of people have been struggling even with Watchmen, which is 1 movie, 1 graphic novel, and a TV show. So this is a lot more.
Yeah, I think we're 11 years now into the MCU, whether by design or not by design, and I don't know. I honestly don't know if this was strategically planned, this timing. We are at a point in the MCU now where, while franchises are continuing, the storyboard has essentially been wiped clean, in the sense that, like, yes, there are connecting threads that you're going to develop, but as far as like the Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, and Thanos, like, we're done with that, and so we're now sort of at a new launching point. And so I think that a lot of the arguments that people were making about these shows are the same things that people made about these movies. There's like, I don't want to go see 4 movies to have to see this movie, and yet we did this breakdown on charting. Like, as far as money put in and money taken out, the MCU has been far more successful than any other, like, nothing compares to, as far as return on what they're putting into it. No other franchise in modern times. So I think that there's this cycle with the MCU where they try something and everyone goes like, what are you doing? And then it works, and then it's just a new way of doing things. And they've somehow managed to, Avengers Endgame was the culmination of spreading the story across so many different movies, and it was the most successful movie of all time. So I think that it's not really surprising that as they're continuing to develop the MCU, they're saying like, okay, well, we told a story this way and audiences were with it. Let's see now if we can extend that storytelling method to other medium to get, what is it, $6 a month? It's not 15, it's not 20. I'm not, I think you can debate the idea of like, well, is it a cheap move do you have to watch these? We don't know that. We don't really know yet to what extent they're going to tie in. We just know that they're going to tie in some way. But it's not surprising to me that now that we are revolutionizing, and this is a revolution of how content is distributed, I hate that word, and I use it, and it's the worst.
Well, what's the other word, though?
How shows, how movies, how entertainment, media is distributed. I think it's business-wise a good move for Disney to say, like, okay, we have this golden goose. It's still laying eggs. Let's see how far down the rabbit hole we can go here, especially because they are now at a point where they're essentially limitless as far as where they can go with story and character, because they've just cleared the board.
Do we think that there's a difference between them saying you have to watch the shows to really understand what's going on in the movies now, and you have to watch the movies to know what's going on in the shows? Is one of those more acceptable to us today?
I think they're assuming that if you are watching a Marvel series on Disney Plus's subscription service, that you've probably seen the movies.
Yeah. I think so too. It's like, that the movies are so successful that it's like the burden is on the TV shows to have had people see the movies, but that's covered. I feel like that's what they think, and they're probably right. Where it's the vice versa thing, because I was saying, like, with the Defenders, if they had shown up in a Marvel movie, there was plenty of fans who wanted them to. Say they had shown up in an Avengers movie, a lot of the people watching that movie would not know those characters. Right. So would it suddenly be like, who the hell are these guys? Right. Or just like, these are some other heroes.
Exactly. Whereas if the opposite had happened, if Captain America showed up in Jessica Jones, everybody already knows who Captain America is.
Right. And there were some references in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and other shows that, like, a one-off, Thor left that here last week. Like, whatever.
The Age of Ultron S.H.I.E.L.D. tie-in where they're like, this is a helicarrier. We can get it to Cap and
or
those
Dark
guys.
World, where they're like, we got to clean up this mess.
But you are right that a lot of people at the time, and it's hard to tell what a lot of people means anymore because when my timeline blows up about it, I'm like, is this 5 really vocal people or is this 5 million people? I really don't know. But at least on my timeline on Twitter, a lot of people were saying that it was a waste that Jessica Jones, that Daredevil, that Iron Fist even, that Luke Cage never made appearances. Do you guys think that there is really no perfect solution because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't? The people who watch the shows want it to be more tied in, the people who don't just simply don't?
I think that there is a balance that you can strike, and it's something that they were doing in the TV shows that I think people wanted in the MCU films, which is basically exactly what we were saying. Like, Thor left that here last week. The people, because I mean, in Jessica Jones, they set up the whole idea of like, this happened after they've had the battle in New York at the end of the first Avengers movie. Right. And I think that the issue is that in the movies, they were never like giving you little Easter egg references of things that had happened on the TV shows. And I think that that's something, as somebody that watches the shows, that I would have liked. Again, not assuming that anybody has consumed these shows in their entirety, but just like acknowledging, hey, this is all part of the same universe.
Yeah. Well, I think with what's happened with Jeff Loeb, I think it's pretty obvious that, because that was always the problem.
Yeah.
Not the problem, but that was always the weird thing about this, is that they were connected, and yet they were not under the same umbrella. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was a completely separate team. When we were talking, I think we talked to the Russo brothers, and they talked about like the meeting where the Marvel film people had to go to the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. people and go like, we're destroying the premise of your show. Right. And they just kind of walked out of the room like, okay. Daredevil was a completely separate team at Netflix and all that from even the MCU. So what we're now seeing is they are consolidating all of that. It's now under one umbrella, and I think it's fairly clear that what they want to do is to create, now that they're at this reset point, a truly like multi-platform, multi-format, complete universe. Will that work? I don't know, but then they made the cinematic universe model work, which so many people failed at it over and over and over again. So if anybody can do it, it's Kevin Feige and Marvel.
True.
I feel like there is no perfect solution, like you were asking, like in that, everything will have its issues, but Ryan, I think you said earlier, he was talking about how sometimes us as the super fan worry about the more casual fan, and it's probably not a concern for the casual fan. And I always think about my mom, because my mom has seen most of the Marvel movies and she really enjoys them.
And also, that's adorable.
It's adorable because the other thing is she doesn't remember any of the minutia, and she doesn't remember any of the specifics. But because, and again, this is of course one of the not so secret weapon of the MCU has been how much people like the characters. But she's like, that was fun, and I like those people, and I like their interaction. So if I said to her like, oh, but you didn't see Ant-Man and the Wasp, so you didn't know what the quantum realm was.
Right.
It just didn't matter to her, and I think there's a lot of people that are like that with these movies.
Yeah,
they enjoy them, but they don't know all those specifics.
I watched Thor Ragnarok with my mom, and she knows characters because when I was a kid, she drove me around to comic book stores and collected cards and helped me find the hologram Hulk card that I was looking for. And I mean, like, so she knows who the characters are. She knows who Thor is. She knows who the Hulk is. And she liked Thor Ragnarok. She didn't need to know or care that the Hulk was on Sakaar because at the end of the Age of Ultron, he jet into space. Because it
didn't matter.
She enjoyed the film because she's like, I know the Hulk.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
But
And that's all. Yeah. There is that extra layer that I think the super fans, and I'll count myself in that group, that are so into the deepness and the intricacy of the stories. We forget that there are people out there that just, if it's a good and entertaining movie, like the other part, it's not as big of a deal.
You guys are talking about character and plot, and I completely understand that, but my last question to you on this would be that WandaVision is supposed to be tonally incredibly different than what we have seen. This is supposed to be half comedy, and we're about to watch a show that's unlike, and they've said this themselves, any other Marvel thing that we have seen thus far.
We think
Everybody check yourself.
I think we just just
got
heard a
everything.
construction thump, but
Ryan popped up so fast on that one.
He's like,
Something very loud happened here. But anyway, the tone is supposed to be very different. So that's something that anybody would notice. Are you guys slightly worried or excited that a tone of a show might not necessarily now fit into that world, but we've got characters that are crossing over to both the TV and the movies?
I think that not all of the MCU films are necessarily tonally completely the same. I mean, you look at I think obviously the glaring example of that is something like a Thor Ragnarok, where that comes in and that has got Taika Waititi all over it. It's very much his sense of humor, his style of filmmaking, and it plays really well into Thor. And I mean, you look at any of the most, I think, successful individual MCU films, things like Captain America, Winter Soldier, that's very much like a spy film. And I think when they do delve into these more specific genre kind of things, it's actually quite successful. So the fact that they're saying, WandaVision is going to be something completely different than anything we've seen in the MCU before, well, we've gotten that a couple times with the standalone films.
Yeah, I'm actually very excited by that. I mean, I know that because there is a criticism that, these movies feel too similar, which, again, I disagree. I mean, I'm not saying they never do, but yeah, I do disagree. It's like James Gunn makes Guardians feel like James Gunn movies.
Exactly.
As someone who likes Iron Man 3, it feels like a Shane Black movie to me, and Ragnarok is all Taika. I want the TV shows especially to feel like they can be specific vibe to them. I mean, I also really dug Legion, which obviously was not made under Marvel Studios, but I feel like, if they could do stuff like that. And WandaVision, that teaser they showed, I think it was at D23, which was like where they took Dick Van Dyke footage and had like ominous music playing with, Vision and Scarlet Witch from the movies. I was like, whatever you're selling, I'm buying, because that looks really weird, and it won't be for everyone. And I guess that is the weird balancing act, right? It's like, we're gonna do something really weird, and maybe it won't be for every single person who loved Avengers Endgame. I don't think any of them expect the TV shows to have that kind of reach. Yeah. And so I think that could be a cool thing, even though, again, I know it's true that if its story connects to Doctor Strange and these other movies, it's a little weird. It's like, watch this very strange, no pun intended, odd thing that ties into our movies. But I think that there'll be different levels of fans, like we were talking about, and every single person who loves these movies won't watch these shows. But I think that if they can find their little niche things, I think that's a good thing.
And who's the Marvel fan that didn't think these were going to be connected?
Right.
Yeah, that's
what we want,
starring the actors from that's the other thing, is like, it's not really that surprising.
No. Right. But honestly, I don't even think that's a rhetorical question. You guys answer that at home. If you're a fan who thought that this wouldn't be connected, also, if you are okay with the fact that there is going to be more tie-ins, or if you don't like that, I would love to hear you guys' comments. Also, while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell.
Ken, hit the bell.
Hey, on it.
What? How did that?
Ryan was running the board
Ryan
yesterday.
forgot. We have a wandering bell.
Yeah.
Leave it to Ken to hit the bell, though. Thanks so much for doing that. And again, let us know what you guys are thinking. You're a huge part of this community, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, wanted to talk for a second about a man who has never surrendered. And Dan, I'm not just talking about you. The documentary Never Surrender about Galaxy Quest that you guys are doing the screening via Fathom Events, November 26th. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're super pumped. November 26th, nationwide Fathom event, one night only in theaters. There will be other ways to see it, but this is the first way to see it. So many people have been sending us tickets. We're aggregating them. We want to do like a big, instead of doing like 2 or 3 in one day, we want to do like 5 or 6. So we have gotten your requests.
They're taking the selfies or pictures of the ticket,
you can
the
send us a picture of your ticket. Don't put your QR code in there. We don't want anyone stealing your ticket. But with the hashtag Never Surrender, send it to us on Twitter. We're collecting them, and we just want to do like a big thank you blocks and chunks. So if you have a question you want us to answer, we'd be happy to answer your question as well. But yeah, November 26th, Never Surrender, nationwide Fathom events in theaters. We're so super excited and proud of this movie, and we would love to share it with you as it premieres nationwide. November 26th, we did the actual premiere at New York Comic Con. It was so great to see that with a crowd, and we hope that you will take part in that with us.
There's something about the term "thank you chunks." You're having big blocks of
big chunks of thanks.
Big chunks of thanks for that one.
We serve that at my family on Thanksgiving. Thank you, chunks. Yeah.
You know what? Not a bad thing to serve. I'm okay with that. Also, we want to tell you guys a little bit about Big Brother and Big Sister of America. I actually was a part of Big Brother and Big Sister of America when I was younger. I was a big sister, and a lot of my friends were. It was a big movement at our high school and after high school when you graduated. And it's an incredible, incredible organization. It's the nation's largest volunteer-supported mentoring network. And on either end of it, as a little sister or as a big sister or little brother or big brother, there's so much good that you can do. And I highly, being somebody who came from the program, I highly, highly recommend if you want to get involved. First of all, it's fun. It's really fun. It's a great way to help somebody while having a good time and step outside of your comfort zone and do good for the world. And if you're interested in volunteering to mentor youth, visit bbbs.org. So that's bbbs.org to learn more. BigBrotherBigSister.org, bbbs.org. Again, can't recommend this enough. Go check it out. If you have a child who you feel like needs a mentor, if you are somebody who wants to mentor and thinks that you have stuff that you can give to younger people, go check it out. All right, let's talk a little bit about FX series, guys. I'm a huge, huge FX fan, and I'm also a huge Hulu fan, but this is an interesting development. This is via Deadline, where the FX-produced series, 4 of them that were announced, are coming over to Hulu, and those are the Cate Blanchett-led miniseries Mrs. America, and 3 others, including Devs, A Teacher, and The Old Man. That's Kate Mara's series, A Teacher, Jeff Bridges, and Alex Garland series with Devs. These are now all moving over to Hulu, which is an interesting development because what exactly does that mean? Does it mean that FX is slowly phasing out? Does it mean that all of FX shows are going to move to Hulu? Does it mean that they're doing a trial run and they're going to see how this goes? And if it goes well, we'll actually get to see this happen more? Or if it doesn't go well, they're going to kind of stick with FX. Just off the bat of this, Eric, how are you feeling about the FX4 shows that were announced on FX moving to Hulu?
Yeah, it's interesting. Yesterday I was seeing a lot of different reactions to this because some people were going, and I love FX too. I love so many of their shows. John Landgraf, I think, is like a great sort of head of a network. He's really a straight shooter guy. But I saw people going to a big, oh no, the sky is falling. Like, is this the end of FX? I don't think it is, but I do think it's the future, which is they're branding this all as FX on Hulu. Like, that's how these shows will be presented. And I think, you look at, they made this big swing, a big financial swing too, buying all the 20th Century Fox stuff, Disney. And of course, the future is streaming. And so they've got Disney Plus, but then they've got Hulu, which they know is going to be for the stuff that you would never brand Disney. I think that they're correct to see FX as a great outlet for all this stuff. And I think they also see that FX is a cable channel. I mean, cable in general, not doing so hot anymore, that this is probably the future, is debuting stuff on Hulu, but having great people make it, and using the FX brand name, which has a lot of power, and people think that's quality. So I think it's a smart move, even though I understand the hesitant nature of like, oh no, because I don't want FX to go away. I don't want that. The people behind that, the creative minds and the people making decisions have been doing such a good job. So I would be worried about that. But I feel like right now, no, they just see it as, here's a place to put these shows because we want to build Hulu up as our other, as much as Disney Plus is getting all the promotion, Hulu's important to them too. And this is another big move for them in the future of streaming.
Dan, how do you feel about this?
Well, I'm so glad that they're freeing up more programming time to run White House down more. It's 4 times a week is not enough to run White House down.
I simply agree.
Very glad that they're going to have hours more time to program White House down. It's. I don't know. Part of it is just being this sort of hybrid generation, if you will, knowing that there's people from here out this is gonna be their reality, where this is just what TV and entertainment is. Right. But in my mind, there's still a little bit of like part, because these are, Alex Garland is a really interesting filmmaker, and
they promoted that show at Comic-Con, like that was like coming to FX next year.
And then you've got Cate Blanchett, you've got Jeff Bridges, you've got Kate Mara. These are all really good talent to be associated with shows, and it does feel a little bit like, and I know we were just talking about Marvel, but Marvel, those shows tie specifically into a property, whereas this sometimes, especially with original programming, sometimes it feels like a big pile of stuff that you just kind of go like, well, yep, that goes on the pile. That goes on the pile. Like, I think for people of our age, there's still an urgency, perhaps a little bit more of an urgency to shows that air on television, right, that are weekly on a network, because, it's not just it's like a Schrodinger's show. It exists, whereas the streaming show, I hear that it's there, but I don't know. I would have to go check and see for myself if that show's actually sitting there. So I think it's more of an adjustment for people that are now adjusting to this new landscape, as opposed to like, but part of me is like, I would have liked to have seen the weekly, the over the air, set my DVR, but I'm a dinosaur. Like, they don't care about me.
Well,
they care about the people that are just now doing this.
Hulu does do kind of a combination of those things.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
They drop the 3 shows and then they go to weekly, or at least that's what they do for Handmaid's Tale. I think that's most of their shows. They drop. They drop a chunk and then they go weekly. But I agree, it's still different. It's streaming. It's not water cooler must see that night television. How are you feeling,
It's
Emma?
interesting though, because I mean, you look at something like the Game of Thrones phenomenon, event television in an era where event television simply no longer exists. But myself included, I think a good majority of people that were watching that were actually watching it on their like HBO Now or HBO Go or whatever sort of digital stuff, but it dropped at the same time that the show was airing. So I think there is still, again, like now that we're moving towards this model, and Disney Plus is doing this with a bunch of their series where they're dropping episodes weekly instead of dropping a chunk all at once like Netflix does. It'll be interesting to see, like, moving forward, what that landscape looks like. Like, if we know, let's say, okay, here's this FX on Hulu show, and we drop 1 episode every Tuesday at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or something like that, then you are getting into this weird territory of, well, it kind of is still like watching TV. It's just that what we've become accustomed to thus far, because Netflix was very much the leader in this, and Amazon Prime does it with their series as well, is just showing up and dropping everything at once. But as you say, Roxy, Hulu's already in the model of kind of doing a weekly drop.
Yeah, but you know what's kind of strange about that? I've been watching Handmaid's Tale since it's been on, and I don't know when it's on. I know sometime between Tuesday and Wednesday it gets dropped, but I'm not clear on when.
Yeah, this is a huge question I've had. I tweeted about this. I want to know what time The Mandalorian is going to go up every week.
Same.
Will it be in the middle of the night, or will it be, will they do what Game of Thrones did? Which, again, I realized it was HBO as a channel, but you could most of us watch it on HBO Now, but we knew 6 p.m., there it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially, with Disney Plus, which is barely in any other countries right now, maybe it's more advantageous for them to debut it at a prime time.
And I'm hearing rumors that is indeed what's going to happen.
Right.
So,
well, but that's the thing. It's like, and that's the difference. And when I say like it's the adjustment that we have to make. Like, for example, Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. Was something I was very excited for when it was announced, but because it was on CBS All Access, it just became one of 47 other things that were just out there to watch, and I still haven't watched a frame of it. If it were, and I'm not saying it should be, but I'm just saying, like, this is the adjustment that is a little bit difficult for me on a personal level to make. If it had been on, I could record it at 8 o'clock on Thursdays.
Right.
I promise you I would have watched more of it because there's an urgency to it. I know when it's out. There's that reminder if it's on my DVR or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, Twilight Zone. I haven't watched that. As opposed to, like, there are 75 shows right now that all exist outside of my field of vision because they're just sitting on various streaming services. That when I'm thinking of what I want to watch, there's no hierarchy to it. It's just like, oh, that's right. I haven't watched this yet, and then I forget about it again.
I think I'm in a little bit of a unique situation just from the perspective of this is what I've been doing to watch anime for years, is because things like Crunchyroll and Funimation and even Hulu that gets things like My Hero Academia or Attack on Titan for like weekly distribution, this has been going on for years, and it's like, I know that when I wake up on Saturday morning, the new episode of My Hero Academia will be there for me to watch, that kind of thing. So it is really, it's an adjustment for sure.
This terminology that it will be starting to be branded as in 2020, FX on Hulu. Do you think that eventually will go away and they will just be it will just be Hulu?
I don't know.
I don't think FX the network is going anywhere.
Yeah.
I actually think it could go the opposite way because you think about all the different outlets Disney owns at this point, and they might want to do freeform on Hulu, which makes a lot of like YA-aimed stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like we might get these kind of umbrellas, where they want people to understand this is a certain type of show, kind of like when you look at Disney Plus and they have those logos, right? Marvel Studios, or just Marvel and Lucasfilm and Disney and National Geographic. I think maybe Hulu is going to move to that too, right? And we'll start to have these labels that people understand. This is this type of show.
How do they get both?
How do they get?
I still don't understand that.
How do they get both what?
How do they have a huge corner market on
A monopoly. Is what you're saying.
Like, how are they allowed, legally?
Yeah.
I guess, Disney, I don't know. The Magic Kingdom.
I still don't quite.
I know. I don't have the answer to that. But if this works, I do hope that DC pays attention and that HBO Max has DCU on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Because I'm so highly confused on what is going on over there that I just want something similar where it's like, I get you have the same parent company, but the fact that we're airing Doom Patrol on both DCU and HBO Max is confusing as hell to me, and I don't understand. So if this works, I would like to see them adopt something like this so that it's on one platform and you've got like a click button and it's FX on Hulu, and then I click on that and it's all the FX on Hulu things.
So I'm glad you mentioned DCU, which I have not subscribed to yet, but Brian Linder, who works for us here at Fandom, Brian Linder, who works for us here at Fandom, he actually tweeted that they do something that was interesting, which is I guess they do a little countdown clock to the next episode being released of their series, and so it's like, okay, well that's
cool.
I gotta be honest, I have the DCU press.
Okay,
so
no,
I don't have that.
Yeah, so I guess they do. I was thinking about how we were saying how it's so hard to know when these things drop. I'm like, well, that is a nice idea, at least to be like visually have, like, if I clicked on, say, The Mandalorian, to be told like in 16 hours and 12
I understand
minutes.
what you're
What's interesting? We actually, I don't know if it's for subscribers or for press, but I got an email from Disney Plus today.
I got that email too.
Oh, yeah.
Here's what's coming up, and it was like a TV guide.
Yep.
It was
Didn't
like,
have the time
on November 12th, this
episode 3 will go up on the 18th.
It's like on Friday,
Yes.
episode 2 of The Mandalorian, blah, blah, and it was literally like old TV guide as to what's going to be available when.
Are you saying you like that or you didn't like that?
I do, because
I like that.
that's
I like
the
it
kind of,
too.
like, I feel like I'm going to have to start doing that for myself. Is like, just keep a spreadsheet that just says like Tuesdays this comes out, Wednesdays this comes out, Thursdays this comes out. I know, like, what do I can't, keeping it straight.
I have this on a notepad on my phone right now because I can't remember what shows I have to watch every week and when they are. And like, I don't want to miss things, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't know when things are.
WWE Network actually does an interesting hybrid too, where it is like a here's what is now. Like, here is a show you could be watching. They do have a schedule all day you could be watching, but everything's also available to stream
on demand.
as you wish. So I kind of like
print
that.
it. They should go to the streaming networks and just list every network like in its own block, and then like print it out as some kind of like guide, and then sell it and mail it.
Like a weekly
guide to television.
I would buy that.
Yeah.
I would
with like a
honestly buy
cover
that.
of like some stars of a TV show.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like,
You guys are making a joke, but I would buy the updated version of this. TV Guide does not include the things I needed to.
Right.
Yeah.
I would buy, if you put a beautiful looking man and woman on the cover and maybe they were soap stars, it's fine. I would purchase this again, guys.
Yeah.
It is Friday though, so let's make sure we get to some fan questions. Fan Friday. I'm doing the Spenny dance. Yeah.
Fan Fridays on
You guys nailed it.
Yeah.
Woo, we got it. Look at Ken catching on. Hell yeah.
Fan Friday.
Wow, my voice gets better and better, especially when I don't have the headphones on to hear it. Let's start with this question from Simon McSween. Simon McSween, I tend to butcher names, so if that's not how you pronounce it, I'm so sorry. Who wants to know, what did you guys think of Titanic when it was released? Emma, I'm coming to you first.
I was the exact target demographic for Titanic. I was, because when did it come out? 97?
Yeah, December 97.
So I was 11, and I'd already seen Shakespeare's R&J, directed by Baz Luhrmann. I was 1,000% in love with Leonardo DiCaprio. I also, one of my favorite movies of all time is the Ang Lee Sense and Sensibility that Emma Thompson adapted the screenplay for and won an Oscar. And so I also loved Kate Winslet. So I was like, I'm all in, like 110%. I loved Titanic. I think I saw it in the movie theater 4 times. And I remember being on a plane. I can't remember if we were going to or coming back from Scotland. My dad's from Scotland, so I've been to Scotland a bunch because I still have a bunch of family there. And it was during the era of like movies that weren't released on home video, but they were on airplanes.
Right.
And Titanic was on, and it was, a 6-hour flight. And I went, man, 3.5 hours of this flight is planned for me.
That's the best feeling.
Yep.
I love that. Eric, what are you?
No, I loved it when it came out. I mean, I guess there were moments where I was like, this line's kind of cheesy, but as a spectacle, I just thought like this totally works. I think I saw it 3 or 4 times at the theater too. I remember seeing it at the Village Theater in Westwood, which is like, a giant theater with like 1,100 seats and amazing sound, and it was like, yeah, you're in this, like and when everything went to hell and when that ship broke in half,
Oh, man.
I was like, why, it was pretty impressive.
Dan, what about you?
I loved it. I was 14 years old, despite the fact that I was so annoyed at how in love all the girls at school were with Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, I'm not that great.
Not even cute, okay?
It's just the spectacle of it, the craft of it. There was a theater in Little Rock that does not exist anymore, sadly. It's called the Cinema 150. It was a one-screen theater. It had stadium seating before every theater had stadium seating.
Man.
Huge. I mean, it was essentially an AMC IMAX now, but back before there were very few theaters, and particularly for Little Rock, Arkansas, it was like this was the place to go. I think I saw it 3 times, but it was I liked the story, I liked the characters, liked the performances. I was me, so of course, really the craft of it was what I mean. Just I know some of it may not hold up, but I think most of it does. But the effects, the technological, like for me, it was I liked the love story, but it was all about like I was absolutely dumbfounded by the last hour of that movie and what they were able to do. It was astonishing for its time.
It's interesting because I was into the love story as well, but I also had learned about the sinking of the Titanic in school maybe a year or 2 before the movie was released. So I was already very well versed in like the actual history of the Titanic. And I even remember that when the movie was first coming out, I was annoyed that Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio were not based on any of the characters that I knew that were real life people from the actual sinking of the Titanic.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw this. So I was 6 when it came out, so I did not go see this in theaters. But I do remember begging my mom to get this on VHS, and it was on 2 different tapes because it was so long. So that was the intermission. And we had a TV in my kitchen that was the size of this piece of paper, smaller than this. And
we had one of those too.
While I was eating breakfast in the morning for school, she would let me
episode of Titanic.
She would let me watch 10 minutes of Titanic, and I did 10 minutes of Titanic for
That's amazing.
long.
As Cameron intended.
I had no idea that they were gonna. I didn't know about the iceberg. The whole thing.
This just took a twist.
I was devastated, and was immediately sure there was room on that door for. And I knew as a kid, scooch over, help him. So I do remember loving it though, and being crushed and crying on my way to school after we finished the movie after months of watching it.
That's amazing.
All right, let's get to another fan question from Peyton Roth. Peyton Roth, what is your favorite movie trailer of this year? Favorite movie trailer? You got yours, Dan?
I'm thinking.
Eric, you got
So I
yours?
have a couple.
So many,
I have a couple. Like I really, I have to say the new Rise of Skywalker trailer because it's damn good.
It's very good.
And it's funny, 2 Ewan McGregor trailers come to mind because I saw them recently back to back. Which is the first Doctor Sleep one I loved, and I actually really like Birds of Prey trailer.
Yeah.
But I'm going to kind of cheat here because this trailer debuted in fall of 2018.
So you're gonna totally cheat.
Yeah, but then there was a second version that it was still playing in theaters this year, which is the Happy Death Day to You trailer.
Oh my God.
Which I just thought was like, first of all, I really dig that movie. Second of all, I just thought that trailer, as far as like somebody really liked the first movie, but was watching the trailer of the second one being like, what the hell? Like, this is like sci-fi now, and they've gone in a totally different direction. So, and very good use of It's My Birthday, In the Club. I'm sorry, I have to get the song name.
In the club.
In the club.
How dare you.
Yes.
Emma, anyone for you that stand out?
I'm totally on board with the Birds of Prey trailer. I knew you were going there when you're like, I saw 2 Ewan McGregor trailers back to back. I really dug the trailer for Knives Out. Like that just was like a who's who of every celebrity that I like, and Ryan Johnson. And even just from that trailer, you can tell how much fun Chris Evans is having in that movie. And it's so nice to see him as not Captain America. So I'm gonna go with that.
When did the Us trailer come out?
Oh man,
Yeah,
that's a damn good trailer.
I think it might have come out end of last year, but the
movie came out
last year. Was still playing in theaters this year.
That trailer is
I'm gonna
so
say that
good.
one just because it immediately came to me when I was thinking about music. Like, that just stuck
It's
with
so
me.
great.
Do you have one, Dan?
Yeah, so I was looking at the movies that I'd seen this year to help jog my memory.
Yeah.
Joker had two great trailers.
Very good trailers. Yeah.
And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I thought the trailers
that's a great
were
trailer.
really, really good. Those
Better
are
than the
those
poster.
Are the two that's the poster was not great, at least here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Those are both movies that had great trailers. I'm sure there are more that I'm forgetting. Us was number one. Us had, I mean,
insane.
technically that's a 2019 release of the 2018 trailer, but the Us trailer.
I already broke that.
So we all cheated except for Emma. Emma's the only non-cheater.
Well, I was gonna cheat and be like, well, actually, I think my favorite trailer is for The Mandalorian, but that's a TV show.
So
Yeah, Mandalorian had a great trailer.
we're all
Really great trailer, though.
We're all total cheaters.
Yeah.
Here. That's fine with me. One more question before we get out of here. Jonathan Ortega says, what are the best or your favorite, which are two very different questions,
Yes.
2019 of films so far?
Okay.
Dan, tossing over to you to start.
Honey Boy, which is coming out. Came out yesterday. There's a review for Honey Boy out right now. That is absolutely one. We were just talking about this tomorrow this morning, and it's going to be really hard this year because there's a lot of really good movies.
There is.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Honey
movies
Boy
this
is
year.
one of my favorites of the year. I really liked Us. I really liked The Irishman. I liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Avengers Endgame. I really liked. Parasite is great. Jojo Rabbit is really good. There's a review coming out today for Ford versus Ferrari.
I heard that's
which
insanely
I really,
good.
really liked.
I'm so excited to see that.
I like that a lot. I'm trying to think as I go through.
Have you figured out your number one?
number
this
one.
year?
No, because there's so many. Oh, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which I think there's a review coming out for next week. Where Tom Hanks plays Mr. Rogers. It's a
Can't
great
wait.
movie. I love that movie. Spoiler alert. I'll go into more into.
They hit an iceberg. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler.
The boat breaks in half.
I don't know if it's going to make my top 10 list, but Dr. Sleep, I really really liked that movie a lot, way more than even I expected to. Yeah, it's going to be a really difficult year to narrow down my favorites because there have been a lot of really good movies this year.
Agreed, Emma.
I'm going to say Terminator Dark Fate.
Well,
Whoa,
I love
that.
I just saw it and I loved it.
So great.
Yeah, and I mean Jojo Rabbit, but I want to give some love to Terminator Dark Fate because nobody saw it, and I really, really enjoyed it. I was extremely invested in the story of these three women, and
Me
it
too.
is great.
I was super invested as well.
I loved it.
Great answer.
Dan mentioned a bunch of great ones. Right now, there are so many great ones out because Jojo Rabbit and Parasite and Irishman really dug The Lighthouse.
Smart love in the chat.
Booksmart.
Booksmart, I love.
Absolutely.
That's great. I will ride or die with Happy Death Day to You. I love that.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I liked it too.
And I mean, there's a part of me that might have to say at the end of the year, Endgame, just as far as like what, I'm like a lifelong Marvel, like got weekly comics from the time I was 7 person. So there is something about things that I saw in that movie that I was like, this is happening in a movie that is hard to match. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff right now.
Yeah, I agree. For me, my top 3 so far have been Peanut Butter Falcon, which I just thought was
really
so
good.
incredible.
That was really good, yeah.
Farewell, which I also thought was
the Farewell
also
is
good.
so
Yeah.
good.
Also on my list.
and Jojo Rabbit. Those to me, and pretty close after that, Booksmart. There's amazing ones this year, but I haven't seen Honey Boy or Lighthouse yet. So as you guys are talking, I'm like,
Lighthouse is another trailer, by the way. I love this year.
Yeah.
That was a great trailer.
Yeah,
the first one was,
So I think we just gave you guys enough movies to watch for a really long time. So hopefully you enjoy those. Guys, don't forget to follow us on Screen Junkies U, and don't forget to watch Honest Trailer, Honest Game Trailer, and the latest real trailer for our Galaxy Quest documentary, Never Surrender, that Dan cut together. Dan, damn.
It's fun.
You busy or something? You got a lot going on. But until the next episode, where can everybody keep up with you?
The Eric Goldman on Twitter and on Instagram, and I write articles for Fandom.com.
Okay, Emma.
I am at Emma Fyffe all over the internet, wherever Emma Fyffes are sold. Also, you can see me every Thursday now over on Collider on Jedi Council. We just had our first episode yesterday. In theory, we're going to be live at 12:30 on Thursdays, but last night it dropped at 5 p.m. So just, follow me on Twitter. You'll know.
a streaming service.
You'll know when it's happening. It's just like a streaming service. When does it drop?
Congratulations to you and
Thank
to
you.
Ace and to Ken.
Yes.
You guys are crushing it. I'm really happy for you guys.
Thank you.
Dan, everybody can keep up with you where?
Here, we are charting will be next Tuesday because we're not here on Monday. SJU will be airing. We pre-taped something, but we're Veterans Day holidays Monday, so charting will be next Tuesday instead of next Monday. We'll be counting down the cats. We'll be introducing you to some new cats. There's so many still to do. It's insane. Yeah.
Speaking of Veterans Day, I will say to close out, thank you to everybody who has served. I always mention my 94-year-old still alive grandfather who fought in World War II in the 8th Air Force. But thank you to all of the veterans out there. We really appreciate you. You guys can find me everywhere at Roxy Striar, and we will be back Monday with that pre-tape and Tuesday with a live show. We'll see you guys then.
Happy weekend.